Let's start the papers this morning with some good news, shall we? Front page of this Nigerian newspaper has this one. Nigeria's foreign reserve assets receives $5 million boost from gold bars transaction. It's in quotes, and the details you'll find on page 2 of this Nigerian newspaper today. Blueprint newspaper has the same story. Commercial gold boosts Nigeria's foreign reserves by $5 million US, injects 6 billion naira into economy. That story is right there on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper. The details of it continues on the inside pages of the paper. But a number of other papers are raising issues of concern. The Nigerian News Direct, for instance, leads with this: war against cholera, vaccine shortages, poor hygiene, worsen epidemic in Nigeria. Experts warn of looming public health emergency, call for improved hygiene practices as street vendors put customers at risk. Lassa fever, diagnosis and prompt treatment essential. That's according to the WHO. Find the details of that story on page 4 of the Nigerian News Direct this morning. The Abuja Inquirer has Abuja murders leave residents in panic. Army general, journalist, DJ, others victims. Police assure of all-round security. Find details of that story on the inside pages of the Abuja Inquirer today. New Telegraph has this one: COT, bank customers lament frivolous deductions, sharp practices. The story has its details on page 2, as experts say Nigerian financial system worrisome. It's not done in saner climes, says ex-CBN manager. Find details on the inside pages of the paper this morning. Daily Independent has this one: CBN year-end 21.4% inflation mark unrealistic, may hit 40%. That's according to experts, say skyrocketing food inflation may crash economy soon. Ask fiscal authority to be proactive over high food prices. Get the details of that story on the inside pages. That picture, of course, is of the president holding a gold bar, flanked by Dele Alake, Minister of Solid Minerals, and the Executive Secretary, Solid Minerals Development Fund, during the minister's presentation of a gold bar to the president. Now, right under that story is Zamfara moves to swell number of non-viable airports in Nigeria. State governments building beyond their capacity, according to analysts. Find the details of that story on the inside pages of the paper today. The Guardian newspaper: CBN stress tests FX market reform, stops BDC funding. Stories on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper today. Vanguard has this one: textile industry faces total collapse as revival efforts fail. The writers are right there on the front page for you, including FG unveils $3.5 billion revamp plan to create 20,000 jobs. The story on the inside pages. Daily Trust: herders reject Senate's bill on ranching. It's ill-conceived, according to Macban. Livestock Ministry, best solution. Details on the inside pages. The Nigerian Observer has this one on its front page. Saudi's multi-currency trade gives Nigeria options to stabilize Naira, as US dollars share in global reserves stands at 54% in Q4 23. Leadership newspaper has this very concerning story: cost of living. CSOs, experts demand pay rise for soldiers. The story is on page 8. NAS may intervene, according to Senate spokesperson. FG already working on it, as from the defense headquarters. Those are some of the papers we have for you today.
Well, the one that catches my attention straight off is what we have on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, guys. It's the one that talks about herders rejecting the Senate's bill on ranching. I think one of the understanding that well, again, one of those things we always talk about is the need for communication. I'm certain that there are some members of the National Assembly, some senators, some House of Reps members who are, in one form of cattle ranching. Well, they own, cattle as well. If that be the case, and this bill is going to be, is being proposed by the National Assembly, the Senate in particular, I expect that there ought to have been some some measure of communication, so the people who are on the fields, who are the ones that move around with their cattle, can also have their inputs, because it's their market, it's their space, it's their field. Now, this is not to say it's justified or not justified, but in the place of leadership, communication remains the most important element in the communication process. Without communicating in the leadership process, without communicating, whoever it is that is leading is just taking a stroll. There will be no following. And that is perhaps what we are seeing here. So on the one hand is the members of MACBAN. On the other hand, there are several people who are not members of MACBAN, but they are also, the owners of this cattle that we have, that's being an issue over the years. So exactly what is it that they are proposing? What is it that they are opposing? I'm expecting that in the coming days, there will be some kind of communication between the government and between the National Assembly and all of these practitioners, because it is not to take for granted that they will always, protest or anything. As far as they are concerned, they say it's ill-conceived, but then exactly what is ill-conceived? It's an issue that I think needs significant attention, particularly members of the National Assembly who themselves have stake in that industry. Don't forget that from the previous government, we understand that the livestock value chain in Nigeria is something in the region of 30 trillion naira. That is as at maybe 4 or 5 years ago. That is then. What's the value now? How do we scale it up? How do we maximize it? Those are the issues that need to be considered, and I hope are being considered in this bill that the Senate is proposing, which already is getting the reaction of the practitioners. That's my take this morning from one of the papers, guys. Malcolm.
Well, quite a lot to mull over, Ayo. I can tell you that same paper stood out for us here. We already had it on standby. But, it tells you the importance of the story which you're highlighting. This is a story which we have been told, affects security a great deal. So we cannot emphasize it enough. But let me take a look at Vanguard newspapers. Look at the front page. In recent times, I was beginning to give myself a pat on the back that when it comes to, being very intentional about, as much as possible, let us buy what is made in our country. Yes, things are difficult for a number of businesses. Things are difficult, not just for a lot of businesses. But you still have very brave people who are, doing business in this economy. And I think that we need to be very intentional about our purchases, from the food we consume to the fabric we wear to the bags we choose to carry, where you can help it, the glasses you choose to wear, everything that you possibly can do, to support the Nigerian economy. Because when you buy these things, it means that a business continues to be in business. So if you look at the front page of Vanguard newspapers this morning, you see this: textile industry faces total collapse as revival efforts fail. Chimling, I was just going to crack a joke about how one time I was telling someone, my dress is made in Nigeria. Oh, my dress is, and the person said, the fabric with which you've made that dress, is it made in Nigeria? And then, it got me thinking about how much more we really need to do to get our textile industry back on track. If we know that one of the essentials of a human being, I mean, we've been told clothing is one of them, food is one of them, and housing. Those are the three main things we need to survive on a daily basis. And our country cannot produce fabric that Nigerians will wear. We should be concerned. We should be very worried about it. So this story on the front page of the Vanguard newspapers is something that should, give the people in the economy, people who are worrying about the economy on a daily basis, a lot of concern. And when I mean people who can do something about it. Government officials, they should be concerned about what exactly is happening in the textile industry, and even more so in the states where these textile factories were situated. Because if these factories are able to come back, and get to work, do you know what impact that would have? What will it take for some of our textile industries to come back? Well, I think just in case they want, some pointers, the front page of the Vanguard this morning will certainly give them that.
Well, we're keeping tabs on the oil sector as well, not just today. Dangote Refinery spoke to some journalists the other day, how he raised the alarm. They said that the IOCs appear to be deliberately frustrating operations of their facility, and so we'll wait and see what happens, even though the president had given that directive that, look, they have to make sure that they supply crude. He said that was why they were actually going out to the country, to the States, to go get crude.
To import?
Yeah.
I mean, it's right there, everywhere. Dangote accuses IOCs of plotting failure of its refinery.
That's huge. We want to see how the sector will respond to it. The IOC is more powerful than government and than these agencies here. I guess we'll wait and see. And the minister himself, Minister of Petroleum Resources, Senator Lokobiri, who was here the other day, he's not gotten back to us as of yet on some of those matters. He said he was going to get back to us. All those areas that were blocked, and then some of this investigation. So we're waiting on him still. But there's a lot of questions about security. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. So stay on with us.